Hey everybody, it's J Mac from Straight Talk. You know, we're down here in Toronto at the Annex because we're here for the Pride Toronto launch party. It's the same thing, we all know that. So we're coming here to find out the scoop for Pride Toronto this week. What's actually going to go on during Pride Month. So make sure you stay tuned and keep in touch with us, and we'll post these as we go on. And make sure you come down and catch us at Pride Toronto on Pride weekend, because you know we're going to be everywhere and checking it out. Come on in, let's go. So I'm with Olivia. We're at the launch of Pride Toronto, which is exciting for this year, which is 2019, I think.
You're funny.
And I haven't even had any drinks yet,
Yeah.
so go figure that out. One of the things you mentioned when we talked earlier is about corporate responsibility around inclusion and making sure they're included. So we actually had a talk with Daniel from TD Bank.
Beautiful.
Who actually described their inclusiveness around the LGBT community and making sure they're in the forefront. So is this the kind of concept that you're trying to go after now with your corporate sponsors as you move forward?
Absolutely. But you know, maybe we want to get even a little deeper. So we want to take as completely natural that you're going to do what you need to do as an employer. What we want to do is test what you need to do for the community outside of being an employer. We want to test whether or not you're truly committed not only to the community as you employ them, but also to the way in which your employees exist outside of the workplace. And so we want to see a commitment to both things.
That's very exciting. I think that was very pivotal for us when we actually had that conversation, and then we met with him, and it's like, oh wow, this is actually happening now. So that's exciting.
Oh, it really is. And what we need to do is hold many of these sponsors up to the same yardstick.
That's right. So are you excited about this year?
You know what? More excited than I was when I spoke to you previously, actually. The event comes, you see a whole bunch of people in a room. They're all really excited. They want you to be successful. Best part about it. And so, yeah, I'm way more excited than I was before this event, for sure.
Well, that's exciting. And also the representation of Indigenous community, making sure that they were here and represented, was really important.
Yes, and it's going to take up more space at Pride going into the future. I will absolutely guarantee that. That is the future of Pride. The future of Pride are the original owners of this land, and that is the indigenous nations. And we will be centering the original owners of this land more and more into the work we do, to the point where hopefully you will never see a difference between what is the mainstream LGBTQ2+ community and what is an Indigenous Canadian.
Should I put a little pressure on you about your presentation? Do you remember how many artists and...
Yeah, please don't. Please don't. All I remember is 40 community groups. It's all I remember.
It's like a huge thing, and it was like, I think there was like 25 different and 5 different stages, so you're actually back up.
We're back up.
Which is because of your sponsors that got stepped up to the plate.
That's exactly
right.
And
no deficit, you said.
No deficit this year. We will have no deficit this year.
Isn't that awesome?
You know, it's the strength of this community, Jason. It is the strength of this community. I tell you, Pride is an example of the resilience of this community. It bounces back and forth, but it always comes out on top.
And we're being really inclusive, and we're making sure people are getting a voice, and we're making sure they're heard.
Exactly.
That's
Jason.
so awesome, Olivia. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of what you've accomplished, and we're really excited to be back for Pride weekend. We can't wait.
Jason, thank you.
Thank you. So, Mark, we're here at the Pride Toronto launch.
Yes, we are.
For Pride, which is really exciting. You are involved in a radio show, so maybe you want to tell us a little bit about that, because you're really focused around the LGBT community.
Yes, well, I am an LGBT content creator, and I have a gay radio show, a 2-hour gay radio show here in Toronto on CIUT 89.5 FM. It's the University of Toronto community radio station. And believe it or not, we've been on the air. The radio station's been on the air for 32 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and my show's been on the air for 3 years, almost 4. And it is the #1 gay and lesbian radio show, so I'm kind of proud of that.
You should be proud of that. That's a hard audience to crack sometimes.
Yeah.
They're all...
Very finicky we are.
Right. I was trying to be nice.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your show. How did you kind of come up with the concept?
Okay, so it's now a 2-hour radio show. The first hour is gay talk radio, do in-depth interviews. Had on people like Carol Pope, Ashley McIsaac, people like that. The second hour, I feature music from LGBT recording artists from around the world, like independent artists that may or may not have radio airplay, and I literally give them that. And it's because I'm also a recording artist, and had an opportunity like this been around when I was, doing my thing musically, that would have been amazing, because I play trans artists from Africa, Malaysia, South America,
Wow.
of course, like Canada, North America, all that sort of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you find there's actually a good representation around entertainment of the LGBT community, actually LGBT members of the community in entertainment, and getting that time that they should? Or do you find that they're struggling to get recognized as an artist because they're part of the LGBT community?
I think, well, with media and social media and the internet, I think there's more platforms, there are more opportunities. In terms of mainstream media, it's still a struggle because anyone, if you think about it, anyone can really do their own thing and post it on YouTube, right, and get an audience that way. But in terms of mainstream media, it's definitely hard to get on there, and especially when you're an independent artist, a queer dancer, painter, choreographer, musician, actress, actor, that sort of thing. It can be hard to crack that nut.
Right. We all like to crack a few nuts once in a while. Anyway.
From your lips to God's ears.
Right. So, in your role with Pride Toronto, what's your hope to kind of gain out of Pride this year? Because it seems like Pride is kind of converting that to kind of like a grassroots approach, which is really important around Pride.
Yeah, for the longest while, to me, it seemed like Pride has gotten so big, so corporate. And hopefully, I think with what we heard today, with a throwback and a focus more on local artists, that's a good thing. That can only be a good thing. So here's hoping.
So, will you be around Pride this year?
I think so. I covered it last year, so I hope to do something again this year. I don't know what, but yeah.
That'll be great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. We know that everybody's kind of celebrating today because this is the kickoff of everything.
For sure.
Kind of thing for Pride Toronto. So we don't want to
sure.
keep you away from the festivities, of
Okay,
course.
thank you.
So we're going to let you get back in there, and we really appreciate that. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's really great.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to... So it's really important to recognize that the LGBT community needs to be represented within entertainment by members of the LGBT community. A cis straight actor replacing the actors and entertainers that are actually part of the LGBT community is not the right way to do it. So we want everybody to get the equal opportunity, and our LGBT actors and actresses and entertainers deserve that opportunity. So we're here at the Pride Toronto launch, and it's very exciting because TD is actually back in the mix one more time.
Yes.
I think you were there from the beginning, if I'm not mistaken.
We've been there for 16 years now.
Wow, that's a long time to be supporting a group. You also mentioned that you're across Canada supporting various Pride organizations.
Correct. We support over 70 prides across Canada from coast to coast. They vary in very different sizes and volumes depending on the prides they are. The main ones we support are Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal, and then we have a barrage of another 60 some odd programs that we support.
That's awesome. So as a corporate sponsor of a Pride organization or a Pride event, some of the things that you do as an organization to make sure that you're inclusive, making sure you're meeting all the guidelines around inclusivity in the LGBT community.
It's ingrained in actually our entire culture, from our top executives all the way down, from our CEO straight through. Inclusion and diversity is very important. We have inclusive and diversity training within the organization, and we live and breathe it every day. So every single day that we come to work, we make sure that everyone feels inclusive and they are their authentic self when they come to work.
Wasn't TD the first bank to actually approve same-sex couples benefits? And
That's correct. We were the very first bank out of the 5 large to be able to approve that, and also gender reassignment surgery as well.
So it just proves I was paying attention today.
There you go. You were paying attention, which is great.
Well, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate you
Thank you.
actually taking a few minutes to know that. We know there's a big party in there, and
No problem.
Don't go too far. So, J-Mac, I'm signing off for Straight Talk. That was just so you know, TD Bank is leading the way by setting the example about inclusion like a corporate sponsor, a responsible corporate sponsor should.
So for the past almost 8 months now, I've been working with Olivia and her team to develop a beautiful pride that ties homage back to the Stonewall riots, and it's been quite the wild ride. So I have a team of about 8 people working with me as well. So shout out to those guys, because this would be absolutely impossible without them.
So how did you actually come up with the concept? Like it's a pretty incredible concept if you think about it, and you're tying in history with now, and you're trying to capture all that kind of things that's going on. So how did you come up with that?
So the beginning stage was actually a lot of trial and error. So we actually tried a whole bunch of different things, and me and 2 other graphic designers, we were just sitting, around a conference table looking at each other like, this doesn't look good. Let's try something else. It's like, okay, how do we, and the thing with Pride is like, they want everything. So
Right.
it takes someone.
For zero money.
Well, no.
We're all nonprofits. We all
Of
get
course,
it,
of
right?
course. But they wanted every idea, and it was kind of, I had to take a step back a bit and say, hey, okay, all these concepts aren't going to work together. You got to choose one, and we got to go forward with that. So the concept was actually inspired by a lot of the retro rock music posters, and kind of, you see those posters where it says groovy. That's kind of where it stemmed from, and then we just started doing some research on posters that they would develop back then. And everybody was high on acid back in the 70s, so everything was like very warped.
I wasn't high on sex.
Well, well, let's say some people were, and
Yeah, some people were.
the creative people were, and it came out in the graphics. And what we wanted to do was take that, but remove that warpedness that connoted to the acid use, and cleaned it up, and there it is. There it is.
And we threw it up on a piece of paper, and everybody liked it.
Exactly. But the thing is making sure there was a story behind it. And when I actually said, guys, I want to change the tone of the color slightly, and everybody had a panic attack. But in the end, I think it worked out really well. I don't think it would have worked the same way if we used the same neon-esque colors that we had originally.
Right. No. So it's
Yeah.
great. So this is art, and people never think of graphic artists as artists.
Yes.
So maybe you want to clarify that just a little bit for some folks, because some people have a little hard time understanding this because they
Yes.
think it's all computer generated, that you don't actually have to think, like all this other stuff. Not me. I
Yeah.
get it. Especially we got a camera guy here that's pretty creative too. So
Yes,
I mean, we
for
know. I
sure.
know. I get it. So maybe you want to
Sorry.
kind of talk about that in a second.
In a second. Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, so I actually, so Pride Toronto is not my full-time job. I actually work at another place as my full-time job, and there, it's a bit more of a corporate place, so people do think that we are machines and just push things out like that. And it's like, okay guys, if you want something nice, it has to have substance. And that's, a thing that a lot of people don't really think about when they ask us to design something. They say we just slap up a square and that's it. But no, we do a lot of research, and I think we probably spent a good 3 months just doing research and gathering information and gathering inspiration and reviewing it with the Pride team and everything. And then it wasn't until December, so we started in late September, it wasn't until December until we finally came up with the concept that you see now.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Well, Kim, thank you very much
Yes,
for
of
taking a few
course.
minutes out of us. We know there's a lot going on there tonight with the launch of
Yes,
Pride Toronto.
yes.
I'm sure we'll probably see you around Pride.
You definitely will.
Yeah.
I'm trying to hop around as much as I can.
Right. So we really look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
Thanks for spending a few minutes with us
Of
to let
course,
us know.
my pleasure.
Take care.
You too.
So we're here at the Pride Toronto launch, which is very exciting. And one of the things that Pride made sure that they would do is Indigenous recognition and land acknowledgement. Maybe you can explain why that's so important, especially for Pride and two-spirited persons that are part of our community as well.
Well, a land acknowledgement, as I said when I had introduced, a lot of the times we think that it's we're recognizing who was the original inhabitants of this land, which is my nation, the Anishinaabe Nation, and the Haudenosaunee. But an elder, Joe Carter, talked to me about the importance of a land acknowledgement is really you introducing yourself to the land. And that's why I was honored to be able to share a dance, because that's how I introduce who I am to the land. And as though it's nice, especially as a First Nation woman, to hear a land acknowledgement, to be like, yes, we're recognizing that that is one step, but it's another step to take it further of all nations honoring the land by introducing who they are to the land in that way. So then this way it can cultivate a relationship for all nations who are here in Turtle Island to build a relationship with the land. And that's what we want as First Nations people, is the respect for the land and to have that, because it's not something to be owned, as we know.
Right, that's very true. One of the things that we are discovering is that two-spirited individuals don't get that opportunity in representation in the LGBT community.
Yes.
And we've tried it. We were actually having that conversation earlier today. Like, how can we make sure that the two-spirited folks actually get space, safe space, so they can speak and be heard?
Yes, and that is very important, as you say, because in my nation, the Wendat Nation, I grew up with my nanny telling me that the two-spirited are healers. They're the ones that actually live in spirit, and they are ones to be protected. So I find that if we can start off a lot of the events with an Indigenous representation, then it can have that way for our two-spirit to create that safe space. But it does also take all of us as a collective to really understand that and put that forth, because in our community here at Toronto, there's a lot of our two-spirited individuals coming up and building space for their own. Now hopefully one day we'll be able to see a two-spirited powwow here in Toronto. That would be absolutely beautiful. We have some of our elders like Sue Crow Eagle, who has a two-spirited drum, where there was a time where, oh gosh, I think 10 years ago there wouldn't have been a two-spirited drum here. So just to see that transition and to have that space, and it does take those individuals stepping up into their roles, but then us as community members supporting that and understanding that and respecting them for it. Yeah.
That's actually true words. And thank you, Nicole. We really, really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us a minute. We know there's a lot going on today, so we don't want to keep you away from all the festivities that is actually going on. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It was an honor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So that was Nicole representing the Indigenous community, making sure that we talk about land acknowledgement, make sure that we're talking about it as a community as a whole, and making sure that we're including and creating safe space for everyone, including our Indigenous brothers and sisters.